Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Clinton Still, and I'm here today to talk about domestic violence. Now, before I get started, I want to say I do not condone domestic violence in any capacity. Now, the story that I'm going to tell is a little bit funny, so you may hear me cracking jokes or smiling while I tell the story, but the overall topic of domestic violence is not something that I find funny. Now, to get the story started, Chris Rock famously said in one of his specials, I never hit a woman, but I'd shake the shit out of her. And, truthfully, I did have to do that once and only once in my life, and it made me hella uncomfortable because, you just generally don't want to be in that position as a man, and it just didn't make me feel right. And I'll explain more later on, right? So to just kick off the story, I was dating somebody, and normally when I date somebody, I make it my business to learn their strengths and weaknesses. Not on like some psychopathic, I'm trying to learn how to control you type shit, but just on some, generally speaking, I like my relationships to go smoothly. So if I know that my girl has a weakness and she's trying to do something that surrounds that weakness, I know that that generally means that I'm going to have to step up and support her. And so I don't mind doing that, but I like to just generally know, hey, if you're going to be doing this and it's your weakness, I need to know because that impacts myself and how much I can show up for myself if I also have to carry this emotional burden of supporting you as well. So I was dating somebody who was an empath. And for those of you who don't know what an empath is somebody who has a very strong empathy gene and they can feel what you're feeling. Like, have you ever told somebody like your dog died and you were a little bit sad and then they started crying and sobbing more than you? Like, yeah, that person is an empath. Like, that person can feel, what you're feeling, right? And so I knew this about this person. And so, they kind of hit just like a little bit of a rough patch in their career, and they're just looking at different careers that they could potentially go to. And so this person landed on potentially being a therapist. Now, I advised against becoming a therapist because I was like, yeah, I mean, you have very high empathy, but I mean, you sit in the chair and listen to people tell fucked up stories about what happened to them in their past and you not break down and cry along with them? And so, me and that person kind of went back and forth. And, one of the reasons why she wanted to get into therapy is because, oh, well, all my friends ask me for advice, which is like, that may mean that you may have the propensity to be a therapist, but just because your friends ask you for advice doesn't mean you should be a therapist. That's a whole nother topic for another day. So moving on. One of the things that we kind of just agreed on is like, yeah, before you just go become a therapist, why not go volunteer at a women's domestic violence hotline? And so that was her idea. It just kind of stick your foot in the water to see how to handle that. And it was just absolutely terrible. It just went absolutely terrible. I don't know how many months it lasted, but I think I want to say it lasted like 3 months, and it ended with a catastrophic event that I need to tell you guys about. So, every day, my girl was going to volunteer at this place, and she'd come back crying, telling me all of the horrors about the men who would beat women and all the things that they were doing, and sobbing about how these women go through all these hardships and things like that. And I'm just like, oh, they're there. Yeah, men are shitty. Some men hit women, blah, 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 right? And so, it just started becoming a problem in our relationship because, what ended up happening was, sometimes, you push your girl, and she makes a joke, about you, things like that. And so I remember when it was one day, I just got like, during this whole thing happening, I just got to like, pushed her off and told her like, shut up or something like that. And then she like turns to me. She's like, no, don't you ever put your hands on me because that's exactly how domestic violence starts. And I was like, I was like, yo, like, okay, cool, whatever. I just won't put my hands on you. Don't need those troubles, right? So so all of this came to a head one night when we went out for a friend's birthday party at the club. So it's 4 of us. It's me and my girl, my friend and his girlfriend, and we go out to the club. And so my friend and we just get separated. So it's just me and my girl partying, and then they're off doing somewhere. I don't know where they're at, right? So anyways, this woman is on the dance floor and she's just completely drunk out of her mind, just completely sloshed. So she bumps into me and she looks at me and she gives me like this little seductive look like, let's dance. Now, my girl is right next to me. And this girl that I was dating at the time was the type of woman that if there was a woman across the room that looked at me and smiled, she'd expect me to like bust out into a full-on sprint and run up to that woman and slap her and tell her that I've got a girlfriend. So when this drunk woman bumps into me and starts looking at me and trying to dance with me, I just grab her and I push her over to my girl. I just straight up push her over to my girlfriend. I'm like, look, you go over there. I don't want her thinking nothing's going on. So just that. You just go ahead and take that, right? So, she starts hanging around my girlfriend. And then this guy kind of walks up to us and like in a huff. And he's like, hey, like, come here. And he like is signaling to the drunk girl, like, hey, come here. And so the drunk girl looks at him. And then she kind of like steps behind my girlfriend. And so my girlfriend looks at her and then looks at him and is like, do you know her? And he's like, yeah, that's my girlfriend's friend. And I'm just trying to take her out so we can leave. And so my girl looks and it's like, do you know him? And the girl's like, and I'm just like, so for me, I'm standing inside watching the whole situation. I'm like, the guy confidently walks up to the girl and he says, hey, let's go, right? Like, and the way that he was looking at her was like, he was annoyed that he even had to like chase her down, right? But my girl, of course, volunteering at the domestic shelter, her first thing is, oh, he roofied her and he's trying to take her home. And I was like, whoa, where did that accusation come from? Like, look, I'm gonna be honest. I won't say that I've ever like seen that happen per se, but I've seen like skeevy men, the way that they look at a drunk woman. And I'm like, okay, yeah, he looks like he's trying to do some stuff, right? But this guy looked like he was just more so annoyed that he found himself in that situation versus like, I'm annoyed that I have to like chase this woman down and I'm trying to take her home, right? So I just didn't get those vibes off of him at all. So I told her, I was like, hey, look, just this is not our situation. This is not our fight. Just let the girl go. She's like, no, it's my responsibility to stop this girl from going home with him because she is too drunk and she doesn't even know who she is. And my girl even asked, and to her credit, my girl asked her, she's like, what's your name? And the girl's like, she didn't even know what her name was. That's how drunk she was. She didn't even know what her name was. So anyway, this guy's like, look, I know what the situation looks like, but this is my girlfriend's friend. I'm just trying to take her and leave out the club. And my girlfriend's like, no, I'm not going to let you go. And I was like, yo, like, just leave the situation alone. So we're all starting this argument where this guy's trying to plead his case. He's like, look, I'm not, an R word ist, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just really just trying to take her and leave, right? And my girl's arguing. So I said, hey, look, why don't we just go give the drunk girl to the bouncer and let them sort it out? So the guy's like, no, why don't you just give her to me? So again, more arguing. So we go to the bouncer and we kind of just explain the situation. And so my girl's yelling at the bouncer, trying to explain the story, and the guy's trying to, explain and everything. So the bouncer just separates us both. And he's like, all right, I can't understand what's happening. So he's talking to the guy and the drunk girl, and he's just talking to them. And so my girl and I kind of standing to the side. And the bouncer was talking to the guy, and maybe about like a minute or 2 minutes later, he kind of just nodding. He's like, okay, like, y'all can leave. And so my girl's like, wait, what? Like, and she starts running towards the bouncer. She's like, wait, you're letting him go home with her. He's trying to take advantage of her. And so I'm like, yo, he talked to her I was like, yo, the bouncer talked to the guy. Obviously, he said something to him and explained the situation, and he's cool with it. The situation is outside of our heads. Let's leave it alone. And so she's like, no, he is trying to take advantage of it. She just literally in her mind just had it drilled into her mind that the guy was trying to take her home, take advantage of her. So at this point, the only thing that I could do is just literally softly put my hands on her shoulders and shake her and say, yo, what are you doing? Leave the situation alone. And so what ends up happening is another bouncer who's kind of just saw all of this commotion going on. He kind of just walks over here fastly and he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, hey, what are you doing here? And I said, this is my girlfriend and she's trying to instigate a problem. I'm just trying to get her to wake up to reality, right? And he's just like, all right. Like, I understand what you're trying to do here, but you putting your hands on a woman is a bad look. So I'm going to need you guys to walk outside. So we get escorted outside. So we're standing outside with the guy and the drunk girl, and we're kind of just standing apart or whatever. And she's just eyeing him, just like, I know you're trying to do something. And I'm just like, yo, leave the dude alone. And the guy is just looking so annoyed and embarrassed. And about like 2 or 3 minutes later, what ends up happening is this woman comes out of the club. She looked in a huff and she's looking around and she's like, she calls the guy's name. I don't know. Let's call him Jason. She's like, Jason. She's like, what are you doing out here? He was just like, I was trying to get her out of the club until these guys accused me of trying to take advantage of her. And so the girl turns and looks at us and she's like, that's my friend. My boyfriend would never take advantage of her. And so, like, guys, I've never felt so freaking embarrassed in my fucking life. I've never been so embarrassed. I was like, I'm so sorry for all of it. But the girl and the guy both wanted our heads on a spike. And I can't even blame them. Now, the funny thing is, my girl didn't have the humility to accept the mistake that she made. So she was still arguing with the girl like, well, he looked like he was doing something and I was just trying to blah, blah. But I'm just like, hey, look, I'm so sorry for the mix up. Let's just go home, right? So the reason why I tell that story is because, and the reason why even having to shake her made me feel uncomfortable is because there was a fight that I got into when I was in middle school. Long story short, there was this kid who just was cussing my mom out, saying all sorts of stuff, saying I was a weak punk, all these things like that. And the guy just seemed like he really, really, really wanted to pick a fight with me, right? So one day I was like, you know what? Fuck it. You want to fight? Let's go after school and fight. So, middle school fights, we schedule the fight after school. We form a little circle around each other. So this kid didn't really know how to fight. So the fight starts and I hip check him and I throw him down to the ground. And I mount him and I start just tearing away at him. Just tearing away, tearing away, tearing away. And he blocks a couple of hits. But then after a while, I just start getting clean hit after clean hit after clean hit after clean hit. So the guy has grass all up in his hair. His nose is bleeding and everything. And I'm satisfied with the amount of damage I've already done to him. So I pick him up by his scruff so I can just deliver one more hit. And the look in this kid's eyes, I will never forget for as long as I live. Like, with his eyes, he was almost speaking to me like, please don't kill me. And it was like one of the scariest things ever because I didn't want to kill him. I just really wanted to damage him severely so that he could understand that I'm not somebody that he wants to play with. But that look in his eyes kind of stuck with me. And that night where I just gently put my hands on my girl, just shook her and said, yo, I need you to snap back into reality. She gave me that exact same look of like, oh shit, I feel like I am in fear for my life. Which, I mean, she wasn't. I was just, that was literally the only thing that I felt like I could do to just get her to snap back to reality. So, personally, like I've said before, is I've dated women who have been unruly. I've dated women who just turn utterly violent when they get upset. And it's crazy that, when it comes to domestic violence, is us men have to teach ourselves how to navigate around volatile women, but nobody ever tells women not to be less volatile. That's like one of the craziest things to me is nobody tells women it's freaking psychotic for you to start throwing things when you get angry. It's psychotic for you to let out blood-curdling screams when you're angry over general things. But these are just things that we just kind of accept in society, right? And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this story is just because, if I could talk to myself back then and tell him what to do in that situation, it would have been to just straight up leave her there. Just straight up leave it there. Like anytime a woman is being disrespectful and not listening to your guidance and she's gotten you into a situation that could potentially turn dangerous, you just straight up leave her there. Like there's no nobility in putting your life on the line for a situation that your girl caused. And the reason why that situation spoke to me so harshly was just because I have no idea what that guy was capable of doing or wanted to do or anything like that. Now, luckily, he was the guy was skinnier than me and he was actually physically intimidated by me. And I could see that about him. And I didn't want to use that to my advantage. I wanted to play as Smalton as possible because I'm like, look, truthfully, guys, I was on his side. I was like, look, she's tripping. I'm just trying to talk to her and calm her down and get her off her shit. But I just couldn't without shaking the shit out of her, right? But the thing is that there's literally nothing that I could have done differently other than just straight up leaving that situation alone. You don't want to find yourself in a situation where somebody else has created a problem that you've got to fix. And that's a big thing, is that person creating problems that you've now got to fix. So, anyways, guys, this is just a story that I wanted to tell to talk about domestic violence. And also because a lot of people think that because of the views and thoughts that I have against women, that I'm like some woman beater or something, right? But that's not the case. The thing is that I have been in a lot of fucked up relationships and I've learned a lot from them. So I look forward to dropping more dating videos talking about my experiences and things that I've learned. So if this message resonates with you, if you think it's funny, if you don't think it's funny, whatever, just let me know. All right, guys, I'll see y'all in a little bit.